welcome to the latest episode. And today we're joined by Ella Hough, and it's a great pleasure to have her on here because Ella is currently a junior at Cornell University, where she's pursuing a Bitcoin-focused study through the Scholars Degree Program at Cornell. She's also the founder of Cornell Bitcoin Club. She's a project lead at Generation Bitcoin. She's co-founder of the Bitcoin Students Network, also author of the blog the Quickstart blog, Bitcoin Quickstart blog, I should say. Also a host, I believe, of Sats Chats. Is that correct as well, Ella? Yeah. Podcast you have?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have to admit I've failed a bit, but yes.
No, no. But also like just the bio is such an impressive bio for, again, like we look at ourselves and compared to you, someone so young, you seem to have done so much within the space, which is really impressive. But Ella, first of all, how are you, and how is Cornell?
Oh, I'm well, thank you. It's really nice to be with you both, Chris and Alan. Cornell is good. It's currently very rainy, but all is going well. This is my last semester of university, so kind of just wrapping things up.
Good. Well, it's nice to hear someone. Like, the last time I was in New York was probably about 7 years ago now. So love the city. So obviously love to go back at some point. But that's really good to know. It's nice to know it's raining as well because it rains here quite a lot back in Ireland. So that's comforting to know. But no, Ella, if you want to start off, just really just give us a brief introduction around your background and sort of your path in discovering Bitcoin and really how it's influenced your kind of educational journey, and then your decisions around your career path to date, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I sometimes think there's two different moments when I first learned about Bitcoin and then really discovered it and went down the rabbit hole. It was not just some kind of flip of a light switch moment for me. In my senior year of high school, I was a part of this certificate program called the Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship Certificate. And as a part of that, you chose a different strand to specialize in. And so I chose the innovation strand. And one of the courses that kind of laddered up into that strand was called blockchain technologies. And so that was really my first, I would say, kind of touch point to Bitcoin. That was probably one of the first times I really heard about the white paper or just kind of some of the basic information. But it went completely over my head in that moment. I had just gotten back from what was supposed to be a full year abroad in Beijing. And so my head was kind of in the AI cloud because I was also working at IBM. We can get into that if you'd like. But that was my first kind of touch point. I still was kind of listening to podcasts sporadically, reading about it in my freshman year then of college and starting to get more into the rabbit hole a little bit. But then I went to the Oslo Freedom Forum with my mom that summer of 2022. And I really credit, that conference for kind of fully sending me down the rabbit hole and really connecting as to why Bitcoin is so important for humanity, our society, and really kind of totally redirecting my studies into Bitcoin and just putting my time and energy into this space. And now, the past 3 years that I've been here, this community is very welcoming and supportive. You just put in some proof of work, some effort, and people really are eager to help you. And so, yeah, now I'm fortunate to be able to start the Bitcoin Students Network, the Cornell Club as a part of that. I've created an independent study major focused on Bitcoin. And now we're also leading the first academic study looking at Bitcoin and financial freedom across 25 countries. So, very grateful to focus all my time on Bitcoin pretty much, but in lots of different segments.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's the concept of, designing your own major around Bitcoin. Was that going to the Oslo Freedom Forum? That was a pivotal moment for you. Did you then go and design your major around that afterwards? Yeah, that was after that moment in time. Yeah.
It was after it. And so, really, when I was growing up, I think a very common question people ask young kids is, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mm.
And my parents, my mom would say, Ella, when people ask you that, you can say the job I'm going to have probably hasn't even been created yet. So that kind of was in my mind when I was younger, growing up. And I first started college at NYU Shanghai. I transferred to Cornell for my second year of college, and I was pursuing just computer science and Chinese studies. And I was going to carry that over into Cornell as well. But the summer I was transferring, they announced they were creating a cognitive science major, which really, when I was applying to schools, was more what I was after because I had this recognition that I think our world is changing particularly a lot. We're really at an inflection point. And how can I just learn to think better, ask better questions, not just always be in search of some answer? And so cognitive science really embodies that. It's a combination of psychology, philosophy, linguistics, and computer science. And so before I switched, that was kind of my first switch over to cognitive science. At the time, was still keeping Chinese. And then when I was just on the website, I saw that they had an independent major program. And this was only in the College of Arts and Sciences. Um, and you're exactly right. I got back from the Oslo Freedom Forum, and I think I had just also read The Price of Tomorrow, maybe a little bit earlier the spring before. And Jeff Booth talks a lot about what world, what system, and am I going to put my time and energy into reinforcing and building? So it just became abundantly clear to me, I have to figure out how to study Bitcoin. I have to think about this. And also because I think once you really get into it, it's like the most interdisciplinary study or topic there is. And so if my goal is how do I ask better questions and think differently, well, this is like the perfect catalyst topic for me to really try to do that in. And in short, it took 15 months from that. So I actually submitted the proposal, I think, on 1031 in 2022 for the independent major. And then it wasn't until January of last year when it was actually approved in a different program. So I couldn't get it approved in the independent major program for a couple of reasons, one of which many people told me I think you just benefit from a more established study. Bitcoin sounds like a hard rock metal band. You needed a faculty member to kind of sign on so that the major lives on once you're gone. And I couldn't get a faculty to agree to it. But there's another program, the Robert S. Harrison College Scholar Program, which I am now in, that is pretty much the same thing, but actually greater flexibility. You can, again, submit a proposal about what you want to study, and then you get kind of full range of course options within the program. And so that is what it is now in. And I think ideally, if any students listening to this, there's not one way to design a Bitcoin major. I open sourced, all my proposals and documents if anyone wants to copy it and use it. But ideally, I think Bitcoin just sits above any one discipline and you look at it from lots of different perspectives.
Yeah. No, like that's amazing because it would be like an actual, as you say, having an open source template for that, and considering trying to connect with other universities. Like I suppose we're in Ireland, in Europe, in the UK. I don't think we have many universities that would offer that flexibility to design your own degree type program or part of your degree program. But what you're doing, like pioneering that in a way, which you're pretty much what you're doing, is a very inspiring concept for others to follow as well. And as you say, you can pull in so many other aspects from other disciplines. Um, Having a core focus on Bitcoin and then being able to plug that into a university degree course potentially, or pulling from different other parts of other courses. So it's really an interesting concept, and I think it's something that would be looking at the future, especially if, like, again, my oldest is 10. He has to listen to me talking about Bitcoin a lot, and he's picked up so many things. I'm surprised by how much he's learned or picked up from me.
Yeah.
And he can sit down and explain to me the problems with the banking system, why Bitcoin's a superior money, with the fixed supply. He can go through all that, very, very well, and sort of, explain it and describe it very simplistically as well, which is surprising. But
Yeah.
I think as well, he doesn't have the complexity of what myself and Chris would have lived through, as we are millennials, aren't we, Chris? We are. Yeah, we are. So when you're looking at Gen Z and
Yeah.
below that Gen Alpha, I think it is as well. Below
Yeah.
that, it's interesting just that, the younger generations coming through maybe won't have that kind of ball and chain effect of the fiat system to have to deal with. Whereas if they sort of transition smoothly into more of a Bitcoin centric financial system and world, everybody will just be in a much better place, I think. Would you agree with that from like what you're doing within the Cornell Bitcoin Club, Generation Bitcoin, and seeing what's happening at a grassroots level? Are you seeing more and more people coming into that sector and appreciating what Bitcoin is, quickly, as opposed to taking months or potentially years, which it took me years to kind of really grasp the concept? Bitcoin is one of the most profound innovations of our time, and understanding it is more important than ever. That's why we're hosting the Bitcoin Breakthrough event, a live, 3-day experience designed to help you accelerate your understanding of Bitcoin. It's a virtual event. Just bring your phone or laptop. No hype, no pressure, just clear, honest discussions about how Bitcoin works and why it matters. You can join, listen, and learn at your own pace. No cameras, no speaking required. Just tune in and absorb. At the end, there's an opportunity to interact with us and ask questions if you'd like. If you've ever been curious about Bitcoin, this is your chance. Join us at our next Bitcoin Breakthrough live event. Go to Emerge21.com and look for the Bitcoin Breakthrough to take your first step.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think I have just one, precise, concise answer. Just with my peers, and so as a part of the Bitcoin Students Network, I get like this amazing gift of every week getting to talk to students across like 69 different countries that are interested in Bitcoin, want to start a Bitcoin club, want to just, do some community effort around Bitcoin. And some people, often it's correlated to how broken their money is, how much pain they currently feel. I think it's, to your point, it's not years. It's just kind of, you can see the benefit and the solution that Bitcoin provides, and you get it. Other people, especially if you're from like the US, it's a much longer process, or it takes kind of much more. I have this quote that I really like. I think it's Danny Myers or Meyer who it's attributed to, but it's basically always be collecting dots, always be connecting dots. And so for myself, I think it took, a couple years, because I grew up, like Alex Gladstein describes, check your financial privilege. I really had to learn to check my financial privilege first, because we're not taught anything about money or, financial education in school. You're not even taught that different theories of economics exist. And so I needed to collect more of those dots and really see a fuller picture. And I think the Oslo Freedom Forum really highlighted that on a very massive scale. But then, for instance, I have, friends here that have family from Iran or Russia, and then, just stories from their family or experiences they've seen. It connects faster. I do hope, when thinking about younger generations, because if you just, think about like our assets that we have, like let's think about just photos or, messages. Like most people have digital photos. Most people don't receive, letters or mail. It's just text or email. Most people are already familiar with QR codes or, fintech, or just digital money in the form of like Venmo or PayPal or something like that. And so I think those, Bitcoin being this intangible thing, I think that's a lower hurdle to get over. Um, and yeah, Bitcoin and Gen Z were born in the same generation. And so I think they will kind of grow up and mature together. And in many parts of the world, I hope that younger generations can just like leapfrog this old, traditional exploitive financial system and just get to Bitcoin.
And it's a system that we were totally blinded to, and you're just brought up in that structure. And it's funny how you can't see it until you see it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris, do you want to jump in with?
Yeah, just a quick question on the maybe who would be pitched at. So, anything that you design, is there a kind of a prerequisite, like field of study that someone has to be in. So in the UK or Ireland, there's for most university courses you need to qualify, at school or maybe at college at a certain level first of all, or have certain studies to get into certain courses. Is it like that for this? And how did you go about choosing something that fitted? So you make sure that you're getting the right people on these courses.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question. So were you asking about any prereqs that I needed to go through for the Bitcoin major to be established?
No, say for example, people wanted to take part in this. Is there any prerequisites that they need? Like, is there any qualifications that they need? Any special field that they need, or is it open to everyone?
For the course at Cornell or the Bitcoin Students Network?
The Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin Students Network.
Yes. No, So nothing, I mean, as I kind of touched on earlier, I think Bitcoin is the most interdisciplinary subject, and you can look at it from biology to engineering to religion. So for the Students Network, the only requirement is that we're Bitcoin only. And then, I'll talk about Nostr or the kind of rest of this open source decentralized stack. Obi, the founder of Fedi, I really like his acronym that I heard recently. Have you heard it, Chris?
No, I know Obi, and I studied a bit on Fedi as well. So it's interesting, but
he used the word blend. So Bitcoin, Lightning Liquid, eCash, Nostr, and then decentralized tech as like a catch-all. But I really like that framing. So yes, the Students Network, no, it's open to everyone. And also many clubs on a college campus, they are, let's say, only for the undergraduates or only for the graduates, or kind of segmented by what course of study you're in. But how I wrote the constitution for the club here, and as is the model for the others, if people would like to follow this, was that the club is for everyone, from an undergraduate to someone in works in facilities or a professor. I think everyone brings some unique experience and touch point, and so we don't kind of put any roadblocks to people joining. And it also means you get an incredible different kind of diversity of subjects and thoughts in the club, because you have people from the law school or the business school or communications major, and everyone can find something different in there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is amazing about this space. Like, people have different viewpoints on Bitcoin. I think they agree. A lot of people agree it's a solution, but it could be used in different ways, and it be an advantage to different people in different ways. I've actually heard it said before a few times that maybe having an economics background is actually an Achilles heel for understanding Bitcoin, because it's so ingrained in you. But that's where I was kind of going at that. Is there a certain field of, but Bitcoin really is for everyone, and we've come across so many people with so many different backgrounds that get it in different ways. And yeah, I think it was so early as well in it that it's hard to really understand what the future of Bitcoin is going to look like, and it's still unfolding at this stage. So yeah, it's been interesting meeting the people that we've met so far, and I don't think there is a particular background that you should be from to get it. It's got by people, millions of people all over the world. So yeah.
Yeah. And one point I think as well, a lot of times one of the first sentences I hear from people, it's, oh, I just don't know anything about, crypto or finance, or I'm not an econ major, or I'm not a CS major. And really at the root of it, which maybe you can only connect once you try to understand a little bit deeper what is money, but being interested in Bitcoin, it's really about being interested in you and, your family, your community. How can I just protect my ability to show up as my full, authentic self, in my life? And we talked about Bitcoin as a tool. That's what it gives you. And so I think once you can kind of help people see that connection to what the meaningful impact Bitcoin will make on their life, it's really helpful to then kind of spark curiosity in other areas as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right, because again, looking back in 2020, when COVID hit, when my business was closed, there was no hope there. I was thinking, like, the chance of my business surviving this is slim. But until I found Bitcoin actually did bring hope. It gives you a purpose, and it allows you to kind of design your business and your life in a very different way because you see the world differently. You're right, it makes you want to serve more. It makes you want to go out and help more people, either tell people about Bitcoin, to educate about Bitcoin. And even like again, thinking around from my business, trying to even go out and help create more change in the world. And again, through the eye care service that I provide, through providing eyewear and
Mhm.
bringing Bitcoin into that sector, it's surprising how much outreach you can get from that. Because I took a bit of an example from a charity called Charity Water, who set up a Bitcoin water trust. I don't know if you've heard of them, Ella, or no.
No, but wow, yeah.
I think it's based in the US, but I think they hold over 101 Bitcoin within the
Wow.
trust currently. So it's been donated to by like the Winklevoss twins and Tony Hawk, the skateboarder, and other people have donated over the course of the last 4 years. But just the tool that it provides, and now the infrastructure that they can provide in Africa, digging wells, once they can put that Bitcoin to full effect, it's kind of obviously linked to number go up in that respect because they have to buy infrastructure and dig wells and do all that kind of stuff. But I think then that sort of veering on more towards like what you're doing as well. You know, you've chosen your path and decided to go in after you graduate. You say you graduate in May, is that correct? You'll
Yes,
then be
graduate
going
May.
out to Kenya for a few months to work or to be around and get experience with Gridless. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you haven't been out. Well, perhaps you have been out already. Have you in Kenya, or is this the first trip out?
So no, it'll be the second trip to Kenya.
Second, no.
I was very grateful to go to the Africa Bitcoin conference again this year, and it was held in Ghana last year, Kenya this year, and then Mauritius next year, which just looks incredible. If you haven't seen the promo video they put out,
Book the
um,
flights.
yeah. And so I was able to go and see one of Gridless's sites in Kenya that they have. This was a hydropower site that we went to see. And so they are basically just set up. They have two, well, actually, there's four shipping containers there, maybe five. There's two for like the turbines, and then one shipping container has all of the miners. And I think there's about 100 miners in this container, and it's just right next to a river. The river also has some solar panels built up on the hill, and I apologize if I get these numbers a little bit wrong, but Eric Hersman, who was one of the co-founders along with Philip Walton and Janet as well, was saying that just by them being there, they're able to provide power to about like 11,000 or maybe 11,000. I might have these all wrong, but many number of people who otherwise would not have access to this electricity and infrastructure. And so I am really grateful to just go and just kind of be a sponge and soak up as much as I can. And I just said, please put me to work. Any job, I'm there. I want to do it.
And it'll be a wonderful experience. And yeah, I just think it's amazing to be able to go somewhere remote, set up, you know, these Bitcoin mines with hydro, and you know, you're basically monetizing the energy, something that could not have been done before because obviously you can't transport electricity too far across certain continents,
Yeah.
especially countries around Africa. But what it does to like micro economies, I guess, in a way, it's setting up little micro economies for villages, and I guess it'll probably I'm not sure if it currently happens or are people actually using Bitcoin potentially as a currency, as a medium of exchange currently in those areas, or is it more to do with the infrastructure and providing the resources like electricity, even potentially jobs for people around the local areas too? Do you know much on that around? Are there any kind of micro economies being set up around those locations, Bitcoin
I mean,
specifically?
there certainly are many Bitcoin circular economies being set up. I think in this particular spot, and I just pulled up my notes with the numbers, it was 11,000 individuals and 2,200 residential connections, and 24 shops. um, we were kind of talking a bit about, oh, wow, wouldn't it be cool if people could pay for their energy in sats? Maybe you get like a little bit of a discount if you pay in sats, and then it might then also create an incentive for, you know, the local grocery to sell milk for Bitcoin or something of that, and kind of spur that kind of economy denominated in Bitcoin. But I think right now it is not. But there certainly are. Fedi, as we were talking earlier, they did a really good job onboarding communities. But I will have a better answer for you after this summer.
Fair play. That's good. Good stuff. And you touched a little bit on Nostr as well. And again, within mainly the Bitcoin Students Network, do you discuss Nostr? Do you find a lot of students are maybe moving over to Nostr and, coming from a Jeff Booth kind of standpoint, moving your time and energy into something or into an app, potentially a social media app that's more decentralized and potentially will serve humanity better going forward with privacy and, having self-sovereign identity and being able to bring that profile with you online as opposed to all these centralized apps taking all the information from you. Do you find students are kind of grasping that concept around having decentralized applications outside the normal social media networks currently?
Yeah, I mean, I would not know about Nostr if it were not for Bitcoin. All the preface, I didn't have any social media myself except for like LinkedIn before Bitcoin. So I'm also, not a great representative there. But we did do a panel on Nostr earlier this year. I was able to go to Nostriga this summer, which was held right before Baltic Honey Badger. And if for anyone watching, I would highly recommend going on to the Nostr World YouTube and kind of rewatching some of those sessions. It was just an incredible couple days being there. And I, was sitting in there with my notepad taking notes. I was like, I have to, bring a panel like this to school because I think my generation again needs to know about it. So we did do a panel on it. And often when I try to onboard people to kind of sending and receiving sats, I'll just onboard them to Primal because it has the wallet integrated in it. And it's just really easy to instantly, see how fast Bitcoin can move sending sats is. So we did do that. But I think, with the TikTok ban in the US now this past week, 2 weeks, talking about connecting dots, I think those seeds are getting planted as to, maybe I should actually I'll bring in a quote from KG, the founder of Machinkora. He made a statement, along the lines of, I wanted to build on Bitcoin because I didn't want to build on anyone else's platform. And so for, people my age, a lot of them, are on social media often. Many kind of supplement their income by maybe being like influencers or having, earning income there. And I think it's really becoming more apparent that you can't just, outsource this trust to these big companies and it can just, disappear, like really feeling this censorship when they have never even encountered it before or felt it. And so hopefully it's kind of serving as an example of this can happen. It does happen, but there are solutions out there. And so hopefully priming them for the benefits of, something like Nostr, something like Bitcoin.
No, absolutely. It is. It's a really interesting space. It took me a little while to really grasp Nostr initially. I think it's just onboarding people. The apps are a lot easier now, but ultimately, yes. Again, working within the healthcare scene as well, and trying to create decentralized apps for data sharing so that patients can own their own data and own prescription data, and healthcare data. That's another really interesting angle as well. But it's just such an exciting space, and as you say, everybody's so welcoming, and so they're just wanting to help everybody. Everybody wants to move humanity forward. That anybody that I've met within the space, and that's why it's just such an inspiring space to go to. And you said like traveling to different events as well. Do you find you're meeting a lot of new people, like-minded people, people that are really inspiring? Is there any kind of people that you have met along the way that have really stood out? Inspired you at any of the events that you've been to?
Yeah, I mean, basically everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you can just learn so much from every person. People, I think, are really intelligent, really just deep thinkers, everyone that I've been able to interact with and encounter. But also, even in your local community, like my first kind of touch point to the in-person Bitcoin community was just at my local Houston meetup, or a Twitter space even. I think that's where I've met most people for the first time, is just through Twitter, through X. And then, now because of like a Zoom or Google Meet, getting to talk to a student in Malawi or Italy, and everyone has something new to share.
Yeah. And everybody, you meet people from all over the globe, and you don't have to go through a lot of small talk because people are on the same wavelength. They've got the same mindset, especially Bitcoiners as well. And that's what I found. And Chris, you're probably the same. When you're starting projects or starting business ventures, it's always a Bitcoiner you're trying to seek out now, as opposed to just other general individuals. It's Bitcoin itself is growing. It's growing in adoption. The network effect is obviously huge and will continue to grow. But it influences so many things. Just as I said, starting businesses, developing, growing businesses. It's just one big community of Bitcoiners effectively trying to really push society and humanity forward. Chris,
Yeah.
do you have any other questions or?
Just on the community, we don't speak to that many students. Again, we've got a lot of people reaching out to us. We're just not close enough to that side of things in the UK and Ireland. Are you doing any work with anyone in the UK and Ireland at the student level? And if anyone's listening who is a student, is there any kind of key recommendations you can give to them if they were looking to take a similar path to you, and starting up meetups and things like that within, like, the university scene is huge in UK and Ireland, so there's probably an opportunity there. Again, we're not exploring it at the moment, but yeah, are you doing any work there? And what would you give a recommendation or advice to anyone who's maybe close to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, Ireland, I don't believe we have any clubs happening there. However, UK definitely, yes. And I would say two groups in particular are doing a really wonderful job: the Bitcoin Policy UK and then the Bitcoin Collective as well. I've been in touch with both of them, and then I've also had maybe 3 calls with people in the UK who are working on trying to build a community there at their university or their school. I would say certainly, anyone that's listening, please reach out to me, and you can set up a call and can, help you go about the next steps, and also kind of direct you to all of the resources that we have, that students can everything's open source, so that people can just take and adopt. And then also, Joe Bryan, who just produced the "What Is Money" video in the UK. That was incredible how much traction and views that got. That's another really good resource, and I think he's doing a lot, to get that in as many people's hands as possible.
Yeah, no, yeah, I reached out to Joe. He actually offered to jump on a call with me and my 10-year-old son Tom to talk through the video. So Tom's
Yeah.
got halfway through it, but he understands it. So I might actually get Joe and get him on a call. But no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's brilliant, absolutely. But yeah, so we won't obviously keep you too long, Ella, because it's a Friday afternoon where you are. I'm sure it's nearly the weekend. You probably got better things to do than sit and talk to us to you from Ireland.
No, I'm
Um,
happy
but
to talk.
just like what is your, I suppose, your vision for the next few years, both I guess personally, but kind of within the Bitcoin space as well? How do you see things developing? I know it's a tricky one, but it's a very general question. But I suppose just from your own personal kind of viewpoint, like what do you see? How do you see your future playing out after graduating and with Gridless, and then after that kind of process? How do you see things?
Yeah, I mean, so I like diving into uncertainty and what is unknown. And so what's kind of cool about Bitcoin is, from my own life, what I've taken from it is, you don't need to know every step, every path. I like setting really long-term goals, just kind of as a guide. But I think what's nice about Bitcoin is you decide, not who in terms of job do I want to be when I grow up, but what type of person do I want to show up in this world as? And so Bitcoin reinforcing these values of integrity, of, being a good community member, kind of being able to adopt a more low time preference way of thinking, um, I think working and putting my time and energy is something that reinforces those values of how can I just show up and try to be a good person in this world. I think that's a big gift in itself. Like okay, let's just try to think about what type of person do I want to be and keep on doing that. And the path will kind of roll out in the way it should. Um, in terms of what is my vision for kind of younger generations in this space, I mean, I should also preface, I'm still really new. It's only been since, 2020, 2021. I feel like every day I know less, which I also take as a big gift. But I love patterns. I love trying to find structure where you can. And so I think it was Mark Moss who laid this out on one of the podcasts with Preston Pish a couple years ago, it might have been now. And basically, he describes how we go through these like financial cycles that happen about every 80 years, technology about every 50 years, and then like political, cultural, societal revolutions every 250 years. And so if you think, okay, I'm just going to think about like the next decade, which maybe even is too long to think about, that puts us at like 2035. In 2034, we will be 80 years post the Bretton Woods. So that's kind of lining up with our financial. In 2033, we'll be 50 years post the birth of the internet, which we all know has had a big impact. And then in 2035 will be like 250 years since the Industrial Revolution. And so I think that puts us at an interesting time. And another reason as well is right now, Gen Z is in this like 11 to 27-year-old age. But in 10 years, we'll be up in that 21 to 37-year age. And so that means we're all of a sudden going to be working, saving, spending. And what are we doing that in? What are we earning our salaries in? What are we choosing to save in? I think that it makes sense that that's Bitcoin. Right now, 11 to 27-year-olds at the high end, they're now working their first jobs, just graduating from college. But I think you'll see it on a bigger scale in the next 10 years. And then I guess a final point to also consider is, what are other impacts, influences coming in? About a year ago, maybe more, Galaxy Research published a piece trying to analyze how much money might be moving into millennials or Gen Z by like 2045. And that number that they think that could come into crypto more broadly is like 225 billion at the high point. And so basically, I just think there's all these different factors. If you want to think about like the cycles in history, if you want to think about kind of the Gen Z time horizons, if you want to think about what wealth is being transferred down, I think in short, in like the next 10 years past, will be really interesting to see kind of younger generations come in and adopt Bitcoin, or just the reasons why they might be doing that. I think, I don't know in short, but I hope that people will find Bitcoin and just use it as a tool for them to go and live out the life that they want to lead and do things that are not really related to Bitcoin. Focus on hard problems, get at what really makes you feel, joyful and like you're fulfilling your purpose. So hopefully we'll also see developments outside of Bitcoin that are really meaningful.
No, that's really well said. It gives people an opportunity to take the time and really think about what is their purpose in life. That's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin, I think, as well. It definitely does. But yeah, Chris, do you have any final thoughts, words?
No, I'm probably self-reflecting now on how much behind I am Ella when I was a student. She was much more mature than I was, much more intelligent, and if the next generation coming up is like this, and this is the way Gen Z are, then very bright future ahead of us all. So very impressed, and enjoyed the show for sure.
Yeah, perfect. No, thank you. And Ella, it was an absolute pleasure having you. We really we look forward to watching your journey and your progress. And hopefully we'll obviously keep in touch as well and get you back on, hopefully sometime in the future. And yeah, just keep track of your progress. So again, thanks for jumping on. Really impressed with everything you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing, because the world needs it. And hopefully more students will be inspired by what you're doing, and it'll create a better future for everybody, for yourselves, for my children, my children's children, and beyond. So thanks again, and talk soon.
My pleasure. Thank you both for having me.